then. We've been speaking with Dr. Joel. Now, let's look at the fate of the African in Europe. How often do you feel that you need to get out of Europe?
Yes, that's a very good question, because so many Africans now are becoming citizens, reintegrating into the system, given the, citizenship applications and all of that. But even in the midst of that, Africans are still seen as second-class citizens. Except in more liberal societies like the United States, the UK, but in some very conservative societies like, Poland and Portugal, Spain and the rest of them, the black people still find it very difficult to fit in, especially because of the language. Because there are so many people who are citizens, who are Portuguese, who are Spanish, who are Polish people, who are from African descent, who cannot really speak the language, but they are citizens. So given that, they still find it quite difficult to get good jobs. That's why some people, once they get the citizenship and they get the nationality, they move out from these countries and they move out to other countries where English. So it depends on what part of Africa you're from. Like for Portugal, those who are from Angola, those who are from Guinea-Bissau, those who are from Sao Tome and Principe, Cape Verde, and the Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa, they still find it quite easy to fit into the system. But when it comes to elections, that's where there are problems. So you could have people who are maybe councillors, but conservative societies like this do not really give room for people of African descent, especially if you have come to naturalize in that country, you were not giving birth to there, and you become a citizen, you're still considered second class. Sometimes these things are not spelled out outrightly, but if you can read body language when you're going for certain things, you just know that this thing is not for you. And if you go to UK, like what we are seeing our own Kemi Badnock is doing, those societies are even more liberal. And we've seen Nigerians and other English-speaking people from other African countries who speak English. We've seen them try to fit in, even in Canada, even in the US. But in other conservative society,
of recent, we've had this irregular migration or illegal migration becoming a very serious problem. How is there any impact of the irregular migration on Africans or Nigerians who are there legally?
Yes, not really, because fortunately last month I presented a paper on irregular migration of Nigerian youths to Europe. You see, the government of these countries have tried to create a clear demarcation, with laws and existing policies on how we differentiate between those who have come through the regular means and those who have come through the irregular means. For example, somebody who has gone through the regular means, gotten admission, and then he has become part and parcel of the society, there are certain policies that have been put in place by government to say, okay, this person will get residency card, this person can work and gets tax number, gets social security and all of that. But people who have come through the irregular means, especially those who have been captured, in different parts of Europe and shared as asylum seekers, there are certain means of identifying those people. So that's the difference. So the irregular migration is not a very big problem because it's costing governments in Europe a lot of money. For example, some people who are trying to cross into Europe some years ago, about 6 years ago, I met some of them. After they've stayed over 2-3 years in prison in Libya, so they finally found their way to Italy, and then they were captured by because based on international law, these people have to be taken care of by the host countries. And they were asked what countries they wanted to go to. Some of them chose Italy, some chose Portugal, some chose Poland. And when these people are received by the government, it is the responsibility of the government to take care of them. Give them houses, pay them stipends every month. If they have kids, these kids have to go to school at the expense of the government. Healthcare is at the expense of government, and so many other perks that comes with it. Now, these things cost these countries a lot of money. It costs a lot of money, and so when it comes to irregular, so they are finding ways and means to minimize this level of irregular migration as much as possible, because it's costing the government a lot of money.
Yeah, as it is now in the United Kingdom, almost every day you have protests against the migrant hotels.
Yes, who are kept in lavish hotels,
yes,
and all of that. And I think that's why the United States government have entered into agreement with even Angola, Rwanda, to send some of these people there. To just send them there to just be there. I think UK too entered the agreement with Rwanda at some point. I think that deal broke down. I don't really have much details about it. I think that deal broke down because people who, asylum seekers or people who have entered the country through irregular means, some of them are in prison, have been in prison, some of them engaged in crime. So the government is deciding, let's take them to other parts of the world where they can just fit in, because it's costing the government so much money to do.
And do you think that is really worth it for people, young people, to take that? I saw pictures of people dying on the desert. I've seen pictures of youths being molested in Libya, some having their organs harvested as slaves, sex slaves, and the rest of them. And whenever I'm flying to Europe, I see it takes 1 hour to cross the Mediterranean Sea.
By air,
really? By air. And people, aircraft traveling at
920 kilometers per hour.
And then someone enters a rickety boat to take 2 weeks inside the... Is it really worth it?
Without life jacket. You see, sometimes, like I said at that conference, I said, African leaders have failed to deal with the pressing issues. We need to find out, to carry out a rational decision-making process to find to the roots what is the cause. Because sometimes these people are fleeing deprivation. They are fleeing poverty. They are fleeing conflicts. They are fleeing starvation towards a better life. For example, in Nigeria, where if you do not have the connection or you do not know anybody in government, getting into the system becomes a very big problem. So people who feel I can move elsewhere to get better life, better job opportunities and the rest of them, so they are willing to, so for somebody to get to that level that he becomes so desperate to the extent that he feels whatever happens to me, I will cross the sea. So I think we need to, first of all, start dealing with those problems. Like I said, we need to find out. Look at in Nigeria, the level of unemployment, close to 33%. So I think one of the second or the third highest in the entire universe of unemployed people. It's only in Nigeria you see somebody who has a master's degree and he's doing electrical work, he's learning electrical work, he's learning mechanic, or he's riding Okada. This does not happen even in the poorest of the countries in Europe. Because they feel that when you go there, there's stability of life and all of that. So people just feel, I just need to risk it. And the cost of traveling legitimately on the regular means is now on the rise, given the exchange rate. So when people are desperate, they just want to go out, risk everything, and then... So I think for us to get this issue of irregular migration right, we need to, first of all, start addressing the root cause. Why do people migrate in the first place? Ethiopians are migrating, Ghanaians are migrating, Nigerians are migrating, crossing these dangerous routes to get to Europe, to get to America, and to get to other parts of the world. So you need to find out why. In some other countries, there's conflict. We understand. If the South Sudanese are leaving, it's because of as a result of the conflict that happened.
Yeah, but that again is a political conflict.
Yes,
South Sudan is political conflict
that has favored the elites, but the people, the downtrodden, they are suffering.
Yeah, I said it. I said most of the conflicts that are devastating Africa are conflicts of politics.
Yes, especially international politics. Especially if
even local politics.
Yeah, if you go to DR Congo, for example, one of the reasons for the main conflicts here is a result of the natural resources that start from the country. Now, those resources, which DR Congo is very, very rich in, or is it Kinshasa or DR Congo, they're very, very rich in, they are the resources used in manufacturing phones, devices,
Well,
computers.
Joel, I have not really bought that argument because
I've read extensively about it.
I do understand the facts may be there, but the fact is that you can do a study that will show you that it is not every resource-rich country that is in violence.
Yeah, absolutely. But in some cases,
it
yes.
is because of the failure of the political elite that have failed to put their acts together. Elites that have refused to come together, they are in factions because they are looking for themselves.
Yes.
And that's why you have those crises, and those are the major crises. If you look at the case of Europe, the United States is one of the richest countries in terms of resources in the world, arguably.
Yeah. Yes.
It is not in that thing. I've had people raise this argument that, which Walter Rodney did a very brilliant job. How Europe underdeveloped, brought out all those fine arguments. But let me ask you one question, which I've asked people and they have not. Why is it that it was not Africans that went to conquer Europe? Why is it that it was not Africans that went to enslave Europe?
Yeah,
I'm not being racist. I'm just raising a question that instead of organizing ourselves, realizing that the box stops on our table, we are blaming externals. Any person anywhere in the world will want to take advantage of, that is how international politics, you take advantage of anywhere that people have opened up, which is why today, that is the danger for Africa. We are trying to move from the stranglehold of Western European countries to the stranglehold of China and Russia. We want to exchange one slave master for another slave master instead of taking responsibilities into our hands. It's not because we don't have people that are intellectual, people that are scientific, people that can organize, but our politics for a very long time has been one of, even during the slave trade, one that you eat one another, you don't, like someone said, the crab
Crab is crab.
mentality,
Yes.
crab mentality, where you have if we put a black crab and white crab in the bucket or so, when one is coming out, the other one will pull it down, and that is the mentality that we have. I'm saying that because even going back to the question of and the issue of the slave trade, I have questioned. The people blame the transatlantic slave trade for devastation in Africa, but that was not what started. We had a massive and much longer trans-Saharan slave trade that took place for a longer period than the period of the transatlantic slave trade. So we allowed Arabs to come and enslave us. And then some centuries after, another set of black people allowed Europeans to come and enslave them. Now, let me ask you a question. The Arabs and the Europeans, what evidence is there to show that they went into African villages, raided them, and captured people and took them? Africans were sold by Africans to the Arabs and to the West. Where are we always looking for scapegoats instead of looking inward at ourselves, that the box stops in our tail? Look at the case of Nigeria, for instance. Arguably, Nigeria is supposed to, we have both the population, we have education, we have the minerals. Nigeria is one of the richest resource countries in the world with unquantifiable amount of gold. And there are even people who believe that we have some of the rare earth minerals that are used in technologies in Nigeria. That around in our forest today, you have Vietnamese, you have Chinese, you have all kinds of people that are mining this gold from our village. Whether it's legal or illegally, where is the government?